Being joined now by Jasper Reed, investment expert, joining us over here. We also have Nagesh Kumar, director and head of the South and Southwest Asia, joining us live from New Delhi. We have Wion Mishra, policy expert, also set to join us. Jasper, I'm going to quickly come across to you first before I take it to Mr. Abrol, also joining us here in our studios. Jasper, the entire farm distress was the headlining topic going into this budget. And that announcement for 6,000 rupees per annum for the small farmers, how would you read it? Do you think it does enough?
So I think as an act to recognise the plight of the small farmers, I think it'll be heard. Certainly it's better than
farm loan waivers.
Well, no, I don't comment on that, but they have to do something, right?
Yes.
And I think the small farmer being recognised in such a national public way is important for dignity. It's important to be heard. Then you get down to, on all elements of the budget, Krishna, what's the actual impact of this? Now, as I've said before, us Thaiwallahs here are not qualified to really comment on whether 6,000 rupees per year is going to be sufficient. I mean, my best guess here is that if you're in a category of farmer that's in deep distress, there's a question mark as to whether 6,000 rupees is going to change that.
Right. All right. I also want to ask you about how the foreign investors are viewing this, but we have Mr. Andrew K.P. Leung, Honorary President, China-Hong Kong Economic and Trading International Association, joining us live here on the broadcast. Mr. Andrew K.P. Leung, thank you so much for being with us here on Wion World. This is one for this big budget day coverage. First impressions of yours on the budget. It is a please-all budget. There's something to cheer for everybody. But do you think it will provide cheer to the economy of India and the way people and investors looking to invest in India?
Well, it seems that this budget is geared towards improving the kind of inclusiveness of a relatively fast-growing economy. Now, the Indian economy is growing pretty fast, but the question is whether or not the benefits of this fast growth would reach more sectors of the community, or whether the benefits of this of the growing economy only accrue to a small proportion of the population, which are the elites. So I think that there is a lot of good story about India. And in fact, a recent piece of research suggests that the Indian economy is going to overtake that of the United States even in about 20 or 30 years' time. Now, the question is that to increase the productivity, in my view, from my perspective, there are three things, and they are all three I's. The first one is inclusiveness. The second one is infrastructure. And the third one is innovation. So I would look at the budget from these three perspectives, whether the budget is or and
all right, we don't have the audio of Mr. Andrew K.P. Leung anymore. We will try to reconnect that line. But meanwhile, for all those who've tuned in, it's time now to take this budget down to the basics and talk about the big takeaways. We have 6 big takeaways from this interim budget, which ended up being a full budget. And these are the 6 big takeaways. First, we will look at the big takeaways for the salaried class. And this number is very important. No income tax for income up to 5 lakh rupees. Keep in mind that limit originally was 2.5 lakh rupees. That was doubled. So a huge vote bank, which is a low income vote bank, being targeted by something like this, but certainly relief for the common man in the income brackets of up to 5 lakh rupees. Apart from that, you also have another move for the salaried class, and that's in terms of gratuity, which has been tripled to 30 lakh rupees. Gratuity being tripled to 30 lakh rupees is another move, so double whammy, in a sense, a good double whammy. Apart from that, you have pension. In the pension reform, it's the unorganized sector which has been targeted, which is again low income, the poor in the country. Pension for the unorganized sector, brand new scheme, brave new scheme, all depends upon the implementation, but certainly quite a thing to announce as part of an interim budget, which, as we've been talking about, is not an interim budget, but is a full budget. Defense budget, meanwhile, has crossed the 3 lakh crore rupee mark. It's the highest ever increase in defense spending in a budget, and the highest ever spent on defense in a budget ever in India. So the government really putting the money where its mouth is, national security being given top priority, lots to cheer for the soldiers of the country. Apart from that, the farmers. The farm distress was clearly the headlining issue going into the debate, into the budget, and now you have the government announcing 6,000 per month, per annum, beg your pardon, that gets transferred through the PDT or the public direct transfer systems by the government to small farmers who own up to 2 hectares of land, which is essentially all the small farmers in the country. And as we've been talking about gratuity as well, and now you have a budget that is catering to the salaried class, the farmers, and we also have something for the defense sector. At the same time, there's lots of outlays for private sector to be cheerful about as well in terms of projects announced. But all said and done, these 6 are the big takeaways. The one thing that stands out is this, which is infrastructure, but specific in the finance minister or the acting finance minister Piyush Goyal's own words. We want urban infrastructure in our villages, and that's the reason why you're going to see the government have a huge outlay to make sure you create the quality of infrastructure that is required for the rural economy and give a boost to the rural economy consequently. So these are the big takeaways of this interim budget, and with that, let's take this across to our panelists. All right, we have with us Mr. Abrol, our tax expert over here. Mr. Abrol, I'm going to begin by asking you something, which is, let's take this apart. 5 lakh rupee exemption for income tax. Everybody watching it is very inquisitive. Some say that it is about the first 5 lakh rupees that any Indian earns, which means if your income is 10 lakh rupees, 5 lakhs of it will not get taxed. Is that the correct reading of an announcement like this, or what is the correct reading?
So the correct reading of this announcement is that if you have income, first 5 lakhs is not taxable. And that's the benefit that anyone who earns 5 lakhs would get. So if you have income which is exceeding 5 lakhs, say 6 lakhs, then you don't get a benefit of this. The way the income tax law is worded, the regulations say that if your income gets to the level of 5 lakh rupees, the tax computed on that there would be a rebate for it, and therefore you get that benefit only once you are at 5 lakhs. So taking examples, if my income was 4,90,000, I'll get the benefit of it. My income is 5 lakhs, I get the benefit of it. My income turns out to be 5,50,000, I don't get the benefit of it.
All right. Stay with us, Mr. Abrol. We also have Mr. Wion Mishra joining us live on this broadcast. Wion, thank you so much for being with us. Krishna Kumar here, coming to you from Wion's studios. I wanted to ask you, many say this is a please-all budget. Many are very happy. The stock markets are clearly happy. But when you start reading the fine print, will the salaried class be getting as much as it sounds because of this new exemption limit?
You see, we must appreciate that the government wants citizens to be tax compliant, and that's why they're increasing the base. You see, earlier we had very taxes or submitting their returns. Now the government is trying to encourage citizens that you must submit your return, and up to 5 lakhs income, you don't have to pay any taxes. And then they are making it very easy for people to file. Everything is going to be electronic. And all taxpayers, like the finance minister said, it was like, giving a reward to the taxpayers that because you have been paying taxes, we are now going to use your tax money efficiently, and we want to make sure that you do it in a very easy, comfortable, friendly manner. So that is the first point which I would like to make, that the government is building a vision for the future of New India, which is in the favor of the citizens, number one. Number two, as you heard, for the first time, the government has thought about the small farmers. No government would think about small farmers earlier. They will only talk about the big landlords and the big farmers.
So,
today, the benefits are going to go directly into the account of the small farmers. Even if it is 6,000 rupees a year, at least he is able to get certain benefit in terms of the taxpayers' money, which goes to the poor or goes to the people who are marginalized farmers in our country. So again, it is building a kind of a culture where they want farmers to understand that don't wait for loan waivers, become self-reliant, become independent, and you start earning income not only through harvesting of crops, but also diversify into fishery, diversify into animal husbandry, try to get income all the 12 months of the year. So government is trying to encourage that. For the first time, let me tell you one thing, which nobody is talking about. For the first time, the government has recognized internal trade. We never had any regulation on internal trade in our country. For the first time in 70 years, the government has recognized our demand, which we have been asking, that there has to be a ministry to look into internal trade, because we had completely left it to the state governments and it was in a mess. Internal trade was in a mess in our country. Today, at least, the thought process has started. The policy will move us forward, where the consumer will be empowered. The internal trade will become transparent, will be regulated, and good quality products will be seen being distributed and marketed. So that is going to be a big kind of a change which we have been demanding for the last 20 years. And today the government has announced that internal trade is going to be part of the Ministry of Industrial Promotion, which is an excellent idea, and we congratulate the government for that. So these are some of the issues which I am trying to say. Technology is going to become a big enabler in our country. Huge investment on innovation, startups, on investments coming in from overseas, on bringing in creativity in our country with the young talents which are available. We have huge unemployment in our country which will come out of entrepreneurship. You will see this budget has a vision, has a future, and that future is be job creators, don't be job seekers. And that's the message which the minister has given, the finance minister has given. That's the vision of our prime minister. I'm so happy that at least they've built a blueprint, and they're going to get into a second term now to take this blueprint forward with a full-fledged budget coming up once they get elected. So the interim budget is absolutely pro-poor, pro-India, a new kind of a vision for the world to see and come to India to invest. And I feel that it is very, very encouraging, and a beginning has started.
Fair enough.
They have laid out
Mr. Wion Mishra there joining us with his perspective, but we have many more people joining us. Here we also have Dr. Nagesh Kumar, Director and Head of South and Southwest Asia Office of UNESCAP, joining us. Dr. Nagesh Kumar, how would you rate the budget on a scale of 5?
I think it is a very balanced, very feel-good kind of budget, which is looking after the concerns of the poor and marginalized, and giving them, minimum level of comfort through basic pensions and all that. And it would go a long way in India meeting the Sustainable Development Goal targets, such as poverty, extreme poverty and hunger need to be removed. And in that direction, I think it's a very big step. And of course, when there is a full budget presented later on, hopefully some of these directions which have been made clear in this interim budget could be taken up further. So I would say that within the given constraints of an interim budget, this was a very bold step taken by the government to take care of the concerns of poor farmers, the unorganized sector workers, and the middle class also with the tax breaks. So I would rate it on the scale of 5 at 4.
4. That's a very high rating, Dr. Nagesh Kumar. Stay with us. We also have Mr. Sachin Gopalan, co-founder Indonesia Economic Forum, joining us. Mr. Sachin Gopalan, we did have a conversation before the budget was presented in terms of what to expect. Now that it has been presented, and if I were to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate this budget?
Well, I'd like to qualify a bit before I come to the number. Budget actually, some of issues which are important for like job creation. For example, you need connectivity, you need digital transformation, you need financial inclusion, and then you need skills. And if you have these four, basically you would be able to create marketplaces which create new jobs. I would just like to look fast forward 5 years. Let's say 5 years ahead of time we go. And then we start looking at what would be the kind of jobs that are created, what would be the state of the economy then. And then you work this way backwards, back to the point here. And you realize that the key here is basically the ability to pull through with what has been promised and also to be able to implement some of these measures. And so everything lies in the ability to execute. In terms of a plan, I think it's a fantastic plan. We've got
very good point, Mr. Gopalan, very good point. The plan always sounds fantastic. It's always the devil is in the details, and the problem is in the implementation invariably, isn't it, Jasper? So much talk of this outlay, but critics will always say that the outlays are invariably good. It is always whether the outlay reaches the hands of the common man.
Well, I agree with you. Just on the point of execution and whether any of this can get done. So if I add up the list of initiatives from the previous budget, which wasn't that long ago, what was it, 3-4 something months ago? Not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I add to that the list of the current initiatives, right? If you think about that from a kind of execution plan, it's incredibly complicated to deliver. And evidence for the current administration's ability to deliver very, very complicated programmes is a bit thin on the ground. Now, in their defence, that's relatively early in the cycle. But to take on, we've now got mega health, right? That came in the last budget. Added to this is mega pensions. Added to all of that is a
mega farmer scheme.
Mega farmer scheme.
Mega middle class scheme.
Well, at least those are easy to implement. Yeah. They're kind of handouts, right? Send the check. That's pretty easy. But on top of this, Mr. Goyal laid out a 10-point plan. Every single one of these is epic in its proportion, right? And delivered. It's wonderful to have the vision, but blue water, blue skies, blue thinking, innovation.
That sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it?
It's a very attractive fairy tale, but this leads to an interesting thing because they're in the business of telling fairy tales two months before election, and so would I be.
Fair enough, Jasper. Stay with us. We need to take this across now to Mr. Andrew K.P. Leung, Honorary President, China Hong Kong Economic and Trading International Association, who joins us live on this broadcast. Mr. Andrew K.P. Leung, so that's the big question for India, isn't it? The implementation, the plans are always great, but when it comes to implementation, the questions. All the big reforms that India has implemented, GST, demonetization, etc., the questions have always surrounded the implementation. And keep in mind, this is a budget that's meant to send out a signal to the election. So are we reading too much into it in the first place?
Well, of course, the test of the pudding is in the eating. But I think that one problem which hasn't been mentioned, one challenge which has been highlighted, is the need to create more jobs. Across the board, including the jobs for women, which of course is a huge reservoir of productivity. Now, how the government is going to address that, whether the statistics would tally with the kind of targets remains to be seen. Because it's not just throwing money at this problem. There's a lot of institutional and administrative arrangements that got to be put in place. And the kind of people's mindset and the readiness of employers to take on this new reservoir of labor, because that the widespread labor participation is a necessary ingredient to increasing the productivity growth of India if it's going to achieve the target growing the economy to even bigger scale within the next couple of years or the next decade.
Okay, and a quick question again. I've been trying to ask this to all those who are joining us on this broadcast. On a scale of 1 to 5, how high would you rate this budget?
Thank you.
Right, Andrew, right, we seem to have lost. Jasper, let me ask you that question. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate this budget?
I think the first thing I'd say is you need a bigger scale. 5's too sensitive.
1 to 10 then.
I'll do it 1 to 10. I think it's a 6, kind of a 7. Look, there's style and substance, right? And that's the same as life, it's the same as business. great style, delivered with great panache, looks great, right? Substance remains to be seen. The devil's in the detail. That's what Mr. Abrol will be kind of working over in the next day or two. But here's the issue for the electorate is there'll be those in the electorate that are persuaded by style, and there are those persuaded by substance.
So your rating, net. This is a lot of calibration before you give us the rating.
I gave you one, 6, 7.
6.7?
6 or 7, somewhere there.
6 to 7. That translates to about 3 out of 5 at best. All right.